God, I feel like I'm in kindergarten.
I know, I hate this.
Jeez, look at, I do, I need a booster.
Should have been here.
Right.
Why would happen?
Every chair you get the first
Of course we did, because I wasn't here,
You weren't
right?
here. Half our council wasn't here
I
last
thought
time.
3
Now it's
minutes.
only
Oh.
2.
How's Josh's chair? That one's really.
I like the 1 o'clock meetings.
2 weeks, right?
Yes,
On the agenda is new chairs, right?
we do have that budgeted.
Ergomatic, I want.
I'm moving.
They're even hard to move. Look at some linoleum up here. Madam.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to kill our big plant.
Plans. So.
Madam Mayor, I have Councilman Addison and Councilman Big absent today.
I can't tell the work session from the other one.
I know, they both say 2.1.
I know.
Review is the council workshop one.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, you probably just heard that 2 of the counselors aren't going to be here and they're not on Zoom either, so. That's too bad. So do you have any idea how many people are on Zoom? 4, okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Do you have the roll call? Okay. This is a joint work session and special meeting of the City Council and the Urban Renewal Agency Board. And to review the annual funding allocation assigned by the city to the Bandon Chamber of Commerce and allocation of remaining funds. So now do you want to, are you going to give, do you want to give the report?
Sure, I
Or-
can provide a brief overview of the staff report if you'd like.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as requested by the City Council, we are here today to review the annual allocation of funding to the chamber that is earmarked or restricted as a result of state law pertaining to TOT or transient occupancy tax. So with that, the City Council on June 3rd reviewed and approved the fiscal year budget for 2024-25. And in that budget, there was an allotment or the remaining balance of $293,000 and 25, let me say it again, $293,000 in TOT revenue that went unallocated. And so the purpose for this workshop is for us to discuss among the council and to determine how best to assign that to the chamber and to maximize the promotion of local tourism. There's an agreement that was entered into July 1st of 2018. The agreement was between the city and the chamber, and the city entered this agreement to assign or utilize the chamber's contract services to help promote local tourism. And in the agreement, there are terms and provisions that are detailed and stipulated in the agreement, which I won't get into at this point. But there are provisions that require a certain assignment of funding for the chamber for this purpose. And fiscal year 23-24 in the approved budget, there was a total of $170,000 that was appropriated to the chamber for the promotion of tourism. This amount was contested by the chamber. It was not the original amount that was requested, nor was it the amount reflected in the agreement by way of the percentage of annual TOT revenue. For this fiscal year, the chamber submitted a request for $257,000 $181 in TOT revenue, and that was to support their efforts that were detailed in a business plan that was submitted during the budget process. And that amount is quite significant, necessitating city council review and consideration. During the budget process and looking at the TOT issue and the assignment of this funding to the chamber, we conducted a survey of cities. We surveyed 7 cities, 6 of which responded, and the survey findings are as follows. Staff was able to determine that the city of Bandon on an annual basis assigns more money to the chamber than any of the other cities. In fact, the city of Bandon assigns $128,000 more than the second most city, which is that of Newport. And then 4 out of the 6 responding cities have chambers. 2 of those chambers out of the 4 allocate funding for their respective chambers for the promotion of tourism. And 2 of these 6 cities had formed oversight committees to oversee the expenditure of those funds that are assigned to the chambers. However, both of the oversight committees have since been dissolved, and Brookings, in fact, disbanded their committee and no longer provides an allocation in support of their chamber. So with that, this evening, the council has a number of options. First and foremost is to eliminate the city's allocation of TOT revenue and no longer outsource the promotion of local tourism to the chamber. Or the council could elect to restrict or limit the city's annual assignment of funding to the chamber for tourism promotion. Additionally, staff is recommending that the council consider this evening that $68,000 be assigned for landscape maintenance. And this is considered to be in support of local tourism because of the aesthetic improvements and the enhancements throughout the city of Bandon, in addition to an additional $29,610 that would be applied for the custodial or cleaning services in Old Town and South Jetty. So with that, the fiscal impact, city staff looked at the benefits of outsourcing this to the chamber, and we have concluded that it's more cost effective for the city to outsource and contract with the chamber for promoting local tourism than it would be retaining full-time city staff with benefits to do the same. We also have concluded that in all likelihood, with the growth of golf and the popularity of the Bandon Dunes Resort and the 2 entitlements that have been approved recently for hotel uses, TOT will continue to increase exponentially over time as new hotels come online. And looking at the limitations of the city to generate sufficient property tax revenue with its permanent property tax, its inability to set user fees for its utilities. In the future, the unrestricted portion of TOT revenue will become more important to help fund the essential services and programs that the city is required and obligated to provide for the residents. So with that, that concludes my overview of the report. And at this time, it'd be appropriate for the council to discuss and provide direction to city staff.
I do want to make, because I don't think everybody has seen this, should have probably sent it out a long time ago, but it shows the chambers, whether or not they have a chamber, and the city's contribution. And the city of Bandon, it says 170,000, Brookings, nothing, Gold Beach, nothing, Lincoln City, $3,000 one-time grant, and they probably get many more. I would guess that their TOT is probably in the millions of dollars. Newport, 41,667 a year. North Bend, nothing. Port Orford, nothing. So we are so far above everybody else that it isn't even, and it's really hard. It's really hard to justify. We had no idea of this. We didn't, when we hired Corey, the first thing we did was ask him, as we were talking about the amount of money that goes to the chamber. We said, a city like the city that he's come from, how much do they give to their chamber? And he said about $40,000. So then we started thinking and we said, okay, maybe we better find out just what other cities in Coos and Curry County give and up the coast to Lincoln City and Newport. And that's when we came up with this document, which was a real shocker, considering the amount of money that we give.
So if I, sorry, here, let me turn that on. You hear me now?
Yes, yes.
So if we give, I'm sorry, if Newport gets 48,000 to their Chamber of Commerce, we know they're generating quite a bit more.
Yeah.
How they're obligated to spend that money, 20.7% or whatever it was. They have to spend that on
30,
tourism. We know
70%.
that is just a small, that 48,000 that Mary was indicating is just a small percentage of that 20.7%. What is their advertising and promotion arm? How are they spending that money is the question I have.
I don't know.
You know, we could do a deeper dive and look into their budget to determine where the TOT is being assigned. The initial survey was just to get an understanding of what the assignment or allotment was to each chamber.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely in Oregon state law, and there's a document that's produced by the Oregon League of Cities titled Legal Guide to Collecting Lodging Tax in Oregon. And it goes into very inexpansive details about what TOT could be used for. There's a number of things that are listed here that I'm sure that city probably utilizes TOT in lieu of general fund revenue to support whatever they do in the form of programs and services that
Yeah.
support tourism.
Right.
And back in 1983, the TOT first came into being in 1976. And in 1983, the city manager, the chamber asked for all of the money generated by the motel tax. The city declined, saying the tax was originally instituted to increase the city's general fund and that its portion of the tax helps defray the day when the city costs will outdistance the levy limits and the entire budget will have to be approved by voters. When that day comes that we can no longer stay within the budget, things like the Chamber of Commerce funding may be of more controversy than just here in the room. Council President Mary Shamahorn, who initiated the idea for the motel tax increase. I have been the one since 1977. So every time the motel tax increased, I was the one who voted for it. When we went from 5 cents to 6 cents, the motel owners objected and the council backed down. Well, John Gamble and Ray Hallinan did. And then I'm going to read you what I said, because these are the kind of decisions that are hard to make because everybody in the chamber is our friend. We're all after the same thing. But here's what I said. Shamahorn then introduced the motion to increase the tax. I think we have to expect many occasions when we are going to have to make tough decisions, she said. I don't think it's time to back down. We have an outstanding community here. The day may come when we're all benefactors. And this money was to go to a chamber brochure. The brochure is probably one of the finest things to come out of a small community. I don't think we have to be ashamed of an additional 20 to 30 cents per night for visitors. My motion then passed, but that's the kind of money we were talking about in those days, 20 or 30 cents, whereas today the TOT just generates so much more money. And when this statement was made about the day might come that we don't have any revenue, this was in 1983, and it was in 1995 when the Stadelman Initiative was approved, which essentially kept us, tied our hands so that we can no longer increase our water, sewer, and electric without a vote of the people. And that's something that
Causing us to have a deficit of $191,000.
Yeah.
And increasing. Well,
I think Peter brings up a good point. This is meaningless right here.
which one?
This thing about the chambers and the money they get.
Oh, you mean the chart?
The money's got to be going somewhere.
Well, yeah,
It
I
is.
mean,
I
It
would
is.
like to know
And-
how.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to know how they spend the money and come into the guidelines of the law without going through their chambers or how they're doing their tourism promotion for the percentage that they have to be at. I'd like to know that, but I don't know if they they
Well,
can tell us or they won't tell or what?
Do know that, if I remember correctly, it's Coos Bay, North Bend, Charleston, and the tribal council has a quasi tourism and promotion commission, and they decide how that money
They
is to
do.
be allocated. So, but to Chris's point, when we talk about $170,000 going to the Chamber of Commerce, we're not funding the Chamber of Commerce to $170,000. We're funding our tourism and promotion campaign. What happens after the $170,000 goes to the Chamber of Commerce is, there is an administration fee. That money can be considered comparable to the list that we're seeing. When they take an administrative fee for spending that money, that would be comparable to those numbers that you're talking about
Mhm.
there.
And I don't have a problem with that, because I mean, if the city thinks they're gonna do it for free, that's
Yeah,
not
no.
gonna happen.
No, we
No.
don't expect that.
No,
Never would not happen.
no,
No,
the city
we
knows
don't
that we're.
Especially not for free.
No.
No,
It'll probably cost them twice as much.
Well, and it's not economically responsible to hire a person in City Hall to do it.
no.
You
We
know,
want,
it's not.
the chamber is the
Should be
person.
separate and
It,
apart.
it just,
Yes.
I think what we're really talking about here, well, right now, we have to figure out how much we're going to give them for this year. And frankly, we gave them 170 last year. I would be comfortable with giving them 170 this year.
I'd be comfortable with looking at what the contract says, because I believe there was a clause in there on when you can cancel the contract.
I have it.
And that, yeah, okay, when is
We
that?
haven't.
I know it's not June 16th. It doesn't say June 16th.
No, no,
but
no. I have to
I think
find
it's
it.
severable at any time. It just, there's notification.
With the notification,
Yeah.
yes, let me find it. Hang
Yeah,
on.
it
I didn't
is.
mark that page. You should have called me.
Yeah. It stipulates that a notice needs to be given prior to January 1st, with the idea that the agreement would be terminated the following June.
Okay,
So if the council were to look at moving in that direction, we would prepare a notice of termination and ensure that it met those requirements.
okay, well, I would like to
Oh.
make sure that that's gonna happen,
Correct.
that we're not gonna get sued over anything.
Well, then I
Yes.
want to ask
Because that's
also,
technically, that's a breach of contract. Am I not right? I only play a
Well-
lawyer on TV here, so I don't know these things, but
um, I also want to know, on the original contract, the only signatures I see on the original agreement is 2018. It says, it doesn't say automatic renewal every year. It just says renewable, it can be renewed every year. So have we done that?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of either agency or entity taking action to not automatically renew it. Otherwise, it would renew automatically.
Okay.
So,
All right. That was a legal question. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm fine with the 170.
That
You
was,
know, I think
The
the
other
chamber's
thing
done
I-
a great job, but what I would also like to say is I would be in favor of if they have a special project that, like, say they need $50,000 to do this one advertising campaign, and all advertising campaigns have an expiration date, whatever that may be, that they bring it to the council and then let us look at it. That way, we're not tying their hands to 170 if they want to go out and get a special project.
so you want to have them come to a meeting, say like June 1st,
No, submit
present
it.
it, then you want to study it for a month, then July 1st.
Well,
No.
are you aware of
We
what
have
their,
special meetings all the time.
here's their advertising budget for 24-25. They're asking, their advertising budget is 115,000. So the difference between 115,000 and 170,000 is about 69% of it is going to actual advertising. So I think 170 is being, is
Well, I still
quite
say, what-
generous.
What does the contract say? Because if nothing was
Well,
sent
so
out,
do you want to go back then for the last 5 years and do that?
well, I'd like to do it the right way I mean,
What do you mean, Chris?
what I'm saying is to say, well, we're gonna set an arbitrary amount. Well, you're breaking the contract. The
Right.
contract was set up in advance.
Right.
If you want to set an arbitrary amount, I think you need to wait until January 1st of 2025. And then say, we're not gonna do it, but we're willing to do, these things. Like I said, I mean, I don't even see Coos Bay on this list.
No,
Where's I mean, everybody seems to be
Coos Bay
worried.
and North Bend aren't on there,
Yeah, where's
No,
all
they're-
the money?
or the
going?
tribe.
they go to just exactly what.
See, 'cause I don't have a problem with the money they're spending, so it's like, I don't know why we're looking.
All right,
at-
but if, all right, let's say their budget, this is the next year's budget that they just gave us, 115,000. So if we were to give them 250,000, then where does, this is their advertising budget, then where does the money go? You,
Ma'am.
you want to, okay, you're gonna try to justify that to the community?
Well.
Sheila,
Where are you gonna spend?
I
the
say
money?
170 is what we gave them this year. I would
hang
like
on,
to see.
Shayla. If we dissolve the agreement, what do we do? Do we have to give notice for January 1 of 2025?
She's reading.
I'll let you catch up. You can answer later. Go ahead.
See you later.
Okay.
Yes, I'd also like to point out that pursuant to the approved budget, there was 293,000 of available TOT. Staff's recommending this evening that 68,000 of that be assigned to landscape maintenance
Yeah.
and an additional 29,000
Yeah.
for
I don't.
janitorial services in support of Old Town and the South Jetty. Therefore, the maximum available TOT is 195,000.
195,
So
okay.
even if that were the case, we wouldn't have the 250,000 requested by the chamber. If the council were to approve the recommendations by staff, all we have is 195,000.
And you're talking about this next fiscal year?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, what's coming up?
Yes,
yes.
okay. And we've already distributed the 170 for the existing budget.
That's correct.
Okay.
So,
Yes, Shayla.
council, it is terminable at will, but you do have to give notice prior to January 1st, and then it terminates on the June 30th. So we would have to give notice by January 1st if you were going to terminate this agreement.
Okay, so,
But that, we haven't abided by that. We didn't even know about the agreement. I mean, it was somebody
Well-
found it just not long ago, right? It was from 2018.
yeah,
A woman named Ruthie Painter. It was signed by a lame duck city manager and
Yeah.
Ruthie Painter, who was the chamber executive for a very, very short time.
Mhm.
I don't even know if Julie, do you know how long she was there?
It's still valid.
Okay, very short time.
Shed no light on what's going on with band and chamber, but I could shed some light on what other areas are doing with their fund.
Okay,
yeah. Julie, could you come up to the mic, please?
well, I thought we weren't.
This is a work shop.
Uh,
Can't we have them talk
Yeah,
if we have questions?
sure, come on up, Julie.
Julie Miller, 833 Southeast First Street, Bandon. I did a travel Southern Green Coast. And I do tourism regionally from Reedsport down to Brookings and inland through the coastal range. And from the conversation, I hear you're like, how are other people allocating their funds? And there are really three ways within the state of Oregon that funds are allocated. Smaller communities tend to allocate their funds to chambers and commerces because in those communities, chambers do sort of double duty. Larger communities, say like your Newports and your Lincoln cities, those which are bringing in millions of dollars, they form a separate entity called a Visitor and Convention Bureau.
Right,
And then the third type is that the funds are brought into the city. And then the city has a department within the city that manages the TOT funds. And there is an oddity out there, which is Coos Bay North Bend Charleston Tribe, that Ron mentioned, which runs an intergovernmental agreement between those entities. And they all put their portion into one bucket. So they have a larger amount of money to spend within that area. And that is run by the Coos Bay North Bend Charleston.
VCB
the
Vacation.
Convention.
Bureau.
Right, so you can do it in many different ways. It's not a cookie cutter, everybody does it, but it does tend that smaller amounts of money are generally run by Chamber of Commerce. Now, if you look at Gold Beach, they don't have a Chamber of Commerce. And you look at Brookings, their Chamber of Commerce disbanded. And then the city, that City of Brookings took that.
So I wonder where Brookings, how is Brookings dispensing
Promoting.
their money then?
They're dispensing it out of the city. I'm not sure what they're doing with it. Their funds are so little. They're only bringing in, the last time I checked, it was when I was at the chamber, it was about $60,000. So if it is more than that, I've been gone from the chamber.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So it could be more than that, but those smaller communities tend to bring in much smaller amounts of money.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
So we need to make a decision.
Well,
What, Robin? Come on up.
yes, Robin.
Good afternoon. I'm a lawyer and I play one. I'm pinch hitting for Margaret County. Weeks ago, I was for first research. So going off of limited information and I'm kind of flying.
Robin, can I stop you a minute? Could you check in that, see if that mic's on?
I was just going to say that.
Can you hear me okay?
No, push the,
Ellie.
push it.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So as I said, I'm pinch hitting for Margaret Pounder tonight. I reviewed the contract. And so just to start with some basic premises. The statute does require 70% of your collected TOT funds to be pushed out for tourism. As Julie observed, sometimes municipalities will coordinate with the Chamber of Commerce to help achieve that object of tourism and tourist promotion. You do have an agreement with the chamber. And everything I heard sounds like people have read the agreement. It does automatically renew unless specifically terminated for some reason. You can unilaterally terminate. And when the agreement terminates depends upon when you elect to terminate. Since we're past January 1st right now, then my interpretation of the contract is that the chamber is good for the next June 30th through July 1st through June 30th session coming up. So even if you terminated tonight, as I understand the agreement, then the chamber is still under an agreement with you to carry forward to the next year. The agreement, as I read it, says it's just basically a flat 20.7% over to the chamber. And of course, the chamber has to do its thing, has to report to you, come up with a plan and this and that. And my understanding is in the past few years that you've gone along with the chamber's plans and the like. The chamber, Margaret has advised me that the city is presently in arrears to the chamber of about $60,000 to $70,000. I'm sorry, I don't have a specific accounting for you, but there have been shortfalls in previous years. And my understanding is that Margaret has raised that with Tori's predecessor in interest, but never actually got a reply. And so one way or another, we've tumbled forward to here and there is a shortfall. So my suggestion at this point is just simply, read the contract, comply with the contract, pay the chamber because the chamber has done what it's contracted for. They've done their job. If you feel like there's issues with the chamber itself, or if you're doing a big think about how to apply these TOT funds, whether you should coordinate with the Chamber of Commerce or not, whether you should have an in-house city position or not, that's fine. The message that Margaret wanted me to convey this evening is just simply, we ask for you to comply with your existing contract. If there is some legal issue with the contract or some non-compliance by the chamber that wasn't resolved within the contract or timely, please let us know. I think that's my only message for tonight.
There's only one little thing.
Yeah.
When you said tourism promotion, the 70%, it says tourism promotion and facilities. And that's where some of the money we're able to help pay for the facilities. That's why we're able
Okay.
to dedicate money to the Sprague Theater and maybe to work on the, say, the visitor center building and that's the reason that what we're trying to do is because you understand we only get 45 cents a thousand for our property tax, which goes into the general fund. So what we're doing is we're taking out of the 298,000 something, the 68,000 for the landscaping services. We pay the Port Abandon $29,000 to, I don't know, pick up the garbage cans, I guess. Oh, and maybe maintain is that the jetty restrooms?
Mhm.
So we pay them. So that money, we figure that instead of us paying that, say, out of the general fund, it would come out of the TOT. So that's why we ended up with whatever it was, 195,000.
If I may suggest, Mayor Shamhorn, yet another path is instead of expressing what you're comfortable with and what you want to do, you might consider asking the chamber and saying, this is our views. We would rather do something else. May we have your blessing and permission to do that?
Well, I know that Margaret's been talking with our staff. I know Margaret was talking with
Yes,
our
she
staff.
has.
So we were under the impression that 170 would be a fair amount, but apparently that's not the case.
I have a question. Paula, can you get to the bottom of us being in arrears $60,000 to $70,000? Or do you know anything about that?
The current year, this fiscal year 23-24, we had budgeted and approved by the budget committee and by the council adoption, 170,000. The actual amount, the 20.7 would have been over 200,000. I think it's 207 or something. So I thought it was closer to 40,000, but so in the current year, we aren't at the 20.7% either.
Okay, so
Great.
it's not 60 to 70, according to you, it's about 40?
Yeah, I could review the,
My regrets that I don't have the numbers
That's
for you.
fine,
because
yeah,
my-
that's fine.
But my understanding, it's not just this past year, but one or two previous years in addition, which is where the 60 to 70,000 comes
Could
from.
you relay to Margaret that we'd like to see those figures and where it comes from? Thank you, Robin.
Okay, if no further questions.
Thank you,
very
Robin.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
So I think we have to make a decision. We need to make a decision by the end of June. That's the reason that we're having a special meeting, is because by the end of the fiscal year is when we said we would make the decision.
Well, and I think it's like you said, we're not dealing with a big corporation here.
No,
Do the full 20 point, whatever percent it was. Put that in the budget so it goes through and then say, we'd like to discuss this and see if we can work something out between now and January 1.
we've approved the budget, so what do we have in the budget?
170.
No,
no, the money is reserved right now in just like a contingency fund for other expenditures. For you to still allocate it out to what you want to.
how much?
That's the
Is that the 293?
$293.25, yeah,
And that's what you're recommending, the landscaping services and the Old Town jetty cleaning.
correct.
That comes out of it, right, yeah, and then it goes down to what, 193 or something?
$195,415.
Okay.
So
Well,
we,
I think legally,
I think we should just go ahead
we
with
have to go with the
190,
agreement for now.
$95,000.
Well, whatever the 20% is going to be for the coming year. And
So
then-
that means that then we'll be taking the landscaping services and the Old Town jetty cleaning and services out of our general fund, correct?
But that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be, though.
Yes.
I know it shouldn't
It
be,
should
but
not
that's,
be.
If we wanted to honor the chamber's request this fiscal year, that would be to tune of 225,000 or 257,
That's for 24, 25.
correct? And that would be taken from the unallocated amount of available TOT, which was the 295. Correct? Yes.
Okay,
So
then-
whatever's left over from that, we can use to,
Yes.
could they come back then with, because this is for next year, this isn't this year, but the next year they have programmed 115,000 in advertising, and that's what the money is really for, advertising.
we have not done our due diligence either year to year. Because it does stipulate in the agreement also that we audit the TOT funds every January. And since I've talked to Paula, and since she's been here, she has not done that. So I'd like to see that start happening. And then I'd like to sit down maybe with the chamber or Margaret to find out where this excess of 257 from the 115 for the advertising budget is going to go. So,
Hopefully it'll go toward, I know January, February and March and April have been pretty grim in Old Town. And hopefully maybe there could be some more targeted advertising, but that really isn't our, that
That's a
really
lot
isn't
of
in our
money.
purview.
Well, that's, it's not like we're being held at ransom here. We can sit down and talk with them and say,
yeah,
hey, we like to see this. Same with the jetty and the Old Town trash thing. I'm not speaking for anybody, but I'm pretty sure it was hey, can we take that out? And I don't think they're gonna say, no, screw you, we're not gonna do that.
Well, if you're saying that we could, then, I mean, we need to know, we would need to know that, whether we could,
Well, I don't think it's not mandatory. We knew that tonight. What I'm saying is stick within the confines of the contract, and then when the fiscal year rolls over, we can always make an adjustment to it after meeting with them.
okay. Well, Corey, can you set up a meeting with Margaret?
Yes, we'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
What are the goals of this meeting for tonight's purposes? What do we need to accomplish?
The goal is to determine the allocation of TOT funding to the chamber.
Where because of the contracts, it sounds like we are obligated. Our hands are tied as far as any kind of renegotiation. So I don't think that's necessarily a decision we have to make
No.
tonight.
Right.
We're obligated by that contract.
Mhm.
Secondly, I think the only real decision we have to make is whether we're going to serve notice of termination of contract or renegotiation of contract. Am I mistaken?
Well, you have till January 1st to do that. We'll have to do that tonight.
Yeah, but I think we should do it the next couple of months so everybody can plan ahead.
I do too.
I think we should meet with them first and
Oh,
talk.
yeah, that's
Well,
what I
yes.
mean.
Yeah,
Meet with them in July
Yeah.
and then schedule, even late July. If we meet with Margaret earlier in July, we could have another special meeting and get everything settled. And then that way it's done, everyone knows what they're looking at and they can budget accordingly. No more waiting, Chris.
but
I'm
So
impatient.
then
Kicking the
maybe,
can.
if
Keep
that's
doing
the
it.
case, if we're going to honor the contract and there's already a set amount that they're going to get, then we really don't need to, then there's no
Yeah.
decision to make.
Yeah,
Is
what are
that
we
correct?
talking about? We're
Okay,
contractually obligated right now.
But I really want to find out about this arrears money too. I'd like to know that for sure. As soon as you can send us an email on that, that'd be great.
but I also want to know if there's a way that they would allow us to pay the landscaping
Yes.
services in an Old Town jetty, anything that can be factored against the 70%. We definitely need to do what we can so that it doesn't have to come out of the general fund.
I'd like
Yeah.
to know also, last year when we were setting up the chamber thing during the budget time, was that an arbitrary figure that was pulled, or was that the 20.7%? That's what I'd like to find out also.
I didn't have their budget. Is that better? I didn't have their budget last year. I believe she worked directly with the previous city manager and he directed me to put in 170,000.
Okay.
All right. I think we're adjourned.
So then I think we can go into the regular meeting
I
and
don't think
just,
we need to have a regular meeting.
I don't either.
okay, no regular
Do we
meeting.
need- Do we need to? It's,
You tell us, Shayla. Shayla?
Yeah, right.
You need to open and close it.
Okay, let's open and close it.
no, you gotta wait till 6.
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
It said the meeting was at 6 o'clock.
No, it didn't.
Oh, for Zoom
See, and I-
people, Mary, for Zoom people, we
Am I?
did.
It wasn't?
Was it?
Special meeting will resume as soon as work session.
Yes.
Oh,
that's
good, all
what
right.
I
Okay.
saw.
Go to
Good.
special-
All right, now I'll open the
Okay,
special meeting.
meeting.
And it has now been determined that we really don't have any item on the agenda, so. I
Motion
will
to adjourn.
And
Short and
hopefully
sweet.
we can work out how this extra money is going to be spent because you're having a pile of